Hey VC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to post a quick video here. This is going to be just a what's been spinning video. Stuff that I've been playing over the past week or so. Um, no new finds or anything here, just stuff I've been kind of pulling out of my collection and spinning. So, just kind of sharing that, maybe introducing someone to something new that they might check out. Just doing the sharing music thing that we love to do here in the VC. So, let me kind of jump in and just kind of start off here with a little Hugh, and this is his album Uptownship. Really, really cool album, cool artist. Kind of does the African world reggae type of stuff, if you will. And I originally discovered him through the movie Vampire in Brooklyn with Eddie Murphy and Angela Bassett. This was back in the 90s, I think. And there's a scene in there, he's a vampire and he's dancing with Angela Bassett, trying to get her in this trance or whatever. And the song they're dancing to is a cover of No Woman, No Cry from Bob Marley and the Wailers. And Hugh was doing the cover. I just remember hearing that when I watched that movie and thinking, I would never in a million years have thought someone could take that, the perfection that Bob Marley and the Wailers already did with that song, and just kind of do something just as magical. And I think his cover of that is arguably one of my top 10 favorite covers of all time. And it's on this album here. So, I gave that a spin and just kind of really, really enjoyed it. So, highly recommend checking that out if you haven't heard it before. With the next one here, I've never been drunk a day in my life. I've never done drugs, been high or anything of that nature. But I think the closest I've come to that has been listening to Sun Ra and his orchestra. For those of you that are kind of into jazz and know about Sun Ra, you kind of know exactly what I'm saying, because the dude is a freak. The whole orchestra is a freak, and actually I shouldn't say that completely, because he has so many albums that they put out, but sometimes it's more of a traditional jazz type of field. Other times it's a little different, a little strange, but nothing that's just kind of completely just totally bizarre, but still just kind of off, which is kind of where this album falls to me. And then there's his stuff that's just like some of the free jazz stuff he does that's just kind of way out there, and I love it all. I mean, he's just legendary. So this is Other Planes of There from 1964, and that was a really good spin because I hadn't thrown this on the turntable in a while. So I had a fun time listening to that. One of my top 5 artists by the one and only top 5 albums by Neil Young, and this is Comes a Time. This is kind of when he was in, I guess, somewhat of his country phase a little bit. And one of the reasons why this is my favorite from 1978 is because side 1 from front to back to me is just absolutely slamming. Going Back, Comes a Time, Look Out for My Love, and then finishes off with Peace of Mind and Lotta Love. Lotta Love was a song that Nicolette Larson kind of had a hit with, and she actually does background on a bunch of stuff on this, which is just he and Nicolette's just a beautiful combination. So that is an awesome Neil album right there, and probably the one I spin the most. Next, a few days ago, I did a contest for, this was for Christian, his 60th birthday celebration, and as soon as I showed this album, I mentioned this video. As soon as I'm done making the video, I'm gonna go spin it, and that's exactly what I did. Earth, Wind and Fire, I Am, fantastic R&B album from 1979. Some of their big hits on here, like In the Stone, Boogie Wonderland, After the Love Is Gone, just some fantastic stuff on here. It was a really, really great spin. I just got so pumped up talking about it in the video that day that I had to go spin it right away. And this was an album that you've listened to a ton of times, you listen to songs off of it when you're shuffling through your iPod and all of that. But I decided just to go sit down and listen to the entire thing all the way through from front to back. And it was almost like discovering it for the first time, as many times as I've heard it. And it is Songs in the Key of Life by Stevie Wonder. Man, when I spun both these LPs the other day back to back, it was just like, it literally just blew my mind all over again. Because sometimes you just tend to forget, like, you know the songs and you know the hits and you know the great things that an artist has done, but sometimes, at least for me personally, it can be easy to forget that was all compiled to one album. And at some point in time, Stevie Wonder put this together and went to the label and said, here, this is what I just came up with. And it's like, just how mind-blowing everything is on this album. All the different styles that he's doing on here, with sometimes easy listening type of style, sometimes a funky type of style, sometimes a, you know, just an old school. I mean, just so many different amazing things on here. One of my favorite songs by him, which is As, is also on here. And even if you look at something like side 2, you know, almost every single song on that side, you know, I Wish, Knock Me Off My Feet, Last Time Paradise, all that stuff was sampled, or someone covered those songs and used them to make gigantic hits. Like Will Smith and, you know, Coolio's Gangster Paradise came from that. And what's his name that covered Knock Me Off My Feet back in the like early 90s? It was a really big hit for him. The young kid, why can't I remember his name? But anyway, so I mean, yeah, just sitting and listening to that from front to back the other day, just, I mean, it was like I never heard it before. I mean, that was just an awesome spin. The one and only Dio, Holy Diver, you know, just rock that out one day. This is definitely my biggest go-to Dio album, so I end up playing that one a lot. Jim Croce, just another one of my absolute faves. And with him, you know, I honestly don't care which one of his albums that I go to, because it's just experiencing his delivery is what makes it so magical listening to his music. So I just randomly pick one. I'm not even shooting for particular songs or whatever else. Most of the time, it's just I want to hear him do what he did. And this is, of course, You Don't Mess Around with Jim, which is just a fantastic classic from 1972 with, you know, stuff like Operator, Time in a Bottle, and just so many great things. I mean, that dude is just, there's something just so pure that comes across in his delivery. A Lenny Kravitz album that I don't go to as often, and I think most people don't know about as much. This is Strut. This was his release from 2014, and it's not one of his albums that has a bunch of hits on it or anything like that. Matter of fact, I usually describe this album, the feel I get from it, of just like, these are songs that Lenny would play when he just got together with the gang and they just wanted to kind of jam one night and have some fun. Like, they weren't trying to make a hit. They weren't trying to, you know, do anything like that. They were just kind of just jamming. These are a few fun songs to play, a few kind of cool rhythms to play around with, that type of thing. And that's kind of exactly what they did. So it's not going to like jump into my top 3 or 5 Lenny Kravitz albums anytime soon, but it's definitely a fun listen, without question. Next here, we have a little Beach House. This is Bloom. This is their release from 2012. This is kind of more the feel that I always describe. It's kind of like the modern day, like we talk about 80s synth and stuff like that. This kind of gives that modern day feel of what I got from the 80s synth and new wave and stuff like that. So really cool album. Favorite song off of here is The Hours. Love that track. And so that was, again, another good spin and good revisit. Pointer Sisters, Energy. This was another fun spin too. This is their release from 1978. Of course, the big hit they had on here was Fire, which was, you know, a really great song. But I think it's easy, especially if you're not someone who typically listens to the Pointer Sisters, it's easy to kind of try to pigeonhole them a little bit, because people will think about stuff like, you know, Jump, which of course was a gigantic hit for him in the 80s, or Neutron Dance, or, you know, stuff like that. And that's all great stuff. But it's sometimes, if you actually just kind of sit and go into, especially on their earlier stuff, you start to realize that they did some things that were a little different. I mean, there's a couple of tracks on this album that are almost like straight up country covers, or country style deliveries, I should say. And it's just not quite what you expect just by knowing the Pointer Sisters and what a lot of people associate with him. So if you haven't heard this, definitely kind of give it a spin, check it out. I think it's a great album. Then I also had a chance to spin a little Shadows of the Night. Of course, this is the legendary Gloria. Of course, the title track was the big hit off of here. But yeah, but just a really good kind of garage rock album. You know, a fun listen. Definitely a number of blues songs that they kind of stole, or I shouldn't say stole, they covered. But you know, like I'm Your Hoochie Coochie Man and I Just Want to Make Love to You, which of course, you know, were both written by Willie Dixon. But yeah, just, you know, just that classic garage rock sound. So again, it was a fun spin. My favorite album by this band, so I'm always going back to this, which is Roxy Music, Avalon. Love this album. Love it, love it, love it. This album is one that just always makes me think that, like, Ferry did not ever realize just how cool he was. And this album, to me, shows me how cool he was, but I don't think he ever knew how cool he was. As cool as he thought he was. You know, songs like More Than This, and of course, Avalon. I mean, both those songs just take me to beautiful places. I absolutely love it. But yeah, I mean, the whole album is just fantastic. Take a Chance with Me, all kinds of great stuff. This is without question my favorite Roxy Music album, and that's still the cover that gives me the creeps. And I don't ask me to necessarily explain why. I think I know why, but I think it's just something to do with the way that you see this Viking out there, you know, with the bird looking out into the distance. There's no one, nothing, anything else around. It just gives the impression of such like extreme isolation, I think. And there's something about that just kind of tickles my nerves whenever I look at that album cover. But yeah, fantastic album. Like I said, More Than This and Avalon, can never get enough. And I had a chance to spin this, which this is something I still have to give a big thanks to Christy. You know, her and I did a little bit of some trading about maybe a couple months ago or something like that. And this was one of the things that we kind of, you know, worked out a nice trade for. And it was a Natalie Merchant Tiger Lily. Again, you know, one of those legendary albums from the mid-90s. I mean, Natalie's voice is just absolutely magical, of course. And, you know, again, I'll have to talk about this album. You guys kind of know it from front to back. But a very nice MoFi copy of that. And that was a great spin. And then going from Natalie to Forbidden. This is Forbidden Evil. Yeah, because that's how I roll, I guess. This is from their 1988 release. And just one of the, just one of those didn't make necessarily the gigantic names, but definitely one of those legendary thrash bands. And this album right here definitely has some serious punch. I mean, it was that mid-late 80s thrash that just made that time period kind of magical for that genre. So Forbidden Evil from 1988. And then dove back into some Sabbath that I don't listen to quite as often, which is Sabotage. It's one of the albums I kind of forget about sometimes with them. But great spin. Going back to 1975. Just, you know, some of their heavier, punchier, again, it's one of those legendary albums, and it was a fantastic spin to revisit. Collective Soul, you know, another great album. Has one of my favorite songs by them on here, which is Precious Declarations. That's a song that kind of really gets me pumped up, quite frankly. This is their release from 1997, and again, just another classic example of some of that late 90s stuff that was so great. And then a couple of spins by the one and only Ann Peoples. Again, just a fantastic, you know, female R&B artist. This is her release from 1971, and then I also spun I Can't Stand the Rain, which was her release from 1974. So the one thing that you'll get between these two albums is there is plenty of heartache on these albums. It's like as much as she sang about it and the way that she sang about it, she must have been going through some pretty tough stuff to bring forward the stuff that she brought on these albums, because it is just heartache from front to back. This one is a little more, I think, on the upbeat side of heartache, and this is definitely more on just the like I'm feeling it heartache. But Awesome, legendary R&B artists, and both those were fantastic spins. And the last two, a little Feist, and this is the reminder from 2007, and of course he had the big hit 1 2 3 4 on this. But again, just one of those kind of nice listens, just a little bit different, kind of soft, just kind of a mellow, laid back type of album, and it was a really cool piece. So that was a great listen. And last but not least, gave Mr. Eric Johnson a spin. And again, this is one of his legendary albums with his gigantic hit off of here, which was Cliffs of Dover, which was the first song that introduced me to him. But just one of the guitar geniuses that just does amazing stuff. So that was also a great listen. So that gives you kind of an idea of some of the stuff that I've been spinning over the past week or so. As always, let me know what you think. If anything in there kind of jumps out at you as some of your favorites or something like that, leave a comment down below. If you're not familiar with some of that stuff, as always, I hope I definitely introduce someone to something new, because I know you guys introduce me to new music like all the freaking time. So let me know what you think, VC. Thanks as always, and we will talk to you soon. All right, take care, guys.